Hi, this is Natasha with Make Up Your Mind with Natasha LaFay. Make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell. Let's get going. Good morning. This is Natasha with Make Up Your Mind with Natasha LaFay. I know that it has been a minute. I recorded a video last week that I'm working on editing of my trip to Belize, which was awesome. It was so relaxing. So I'll make sure I'll get that video posted maybe sometime next week. But I wanted to come and have a quick little chat with you guys about grief. Looking at, and I had my parents were in town. So I had a talk with my mom yesterday in regards to the Kobe situation and kind of how that really hit a lot of people. And I'm going to be honest, my channel is about vulnerability, so I'm going to talk about it. I have been avoiding that, seriously. I haven't really wanted to kind of indulge in it too much or look at it too much in the media. I've kind of been, like I said, avoiding it because it does trigger some things for me personally, but I do realize that I'm not the only one who is dealing with that. So I did want to come and talk a little bit about that while I finish up my face before I head out to work. And it was really good to talk to my mom yesterday because just hearing other people's perspective, and I know that I've talked to clients, things like that, in regards to how they've been affected by hearing this news, and I do think it was something that shook the nation. So I have a couple of talking points just to make sure that I stay on task for this video. I think that for those who have been through it, and I have a mirror down here as always, so that's why I'm looking down. Those who have been through it, it's kind of like a club that nobody wants to be a part of. When you experience a tragic sudden loss, there's no preparation for it. It's really difficult because you're thrown right into it. You get the news and that person is gone. And in this situation, 9 people lost their lives at one time. So it was really something that was extremely tragic. And a lot of people around this country has experienced a lot of thoughts and feelings surrounding that. So one thing I wanted to talk about, I have a couple points that I want to touch on. One is talking about the overall stages of grief. So generally, and I think it's Kubler-Ross, she developed the stages of grief, and it's 5 stages that she identified that people go through during the time of grieving. So it's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And I get that. I think that makes sense. In the beginning, if you find out you have a loved one, for instance, who's sick, you go through kind of that denial period where you're like, no, that person's okay. They're going to pull through. They're going to make it. And then you find maybe they're sicker than you thought. You experience some feelings of anger, as far as maybe anger at God, anger about the situation, maybe anger at that person's feeling like they should have done a better job of taking care of themselves, whatever the case may be. And I think as you move further into that stage of grief, you begin bargaining as far as, God, if you save my loved one, I'll go to church every Sunday. And then it just kind of moves forward to depression and eventually to acceptance. And one thing to recognize is that the stages of grief is not a linear process, meaning that you don't move specifically through those 5 steps. People can bounce from anger to depression to denial to bargaining. So there is no straightforward way or process to grieving. But I think when you have situations like this where there is an instant sudden loss, there is no preparation for that. There is no denial. There is no bargaining. Those steps are kind of taken off the table because you're hit with the fact that one moment your loved one was here and the next moment they're gone. So that is it's a blow, honestly. And I think that we're seeing it a lot more in the media, sudden losses where people are just lost or killed in very tragic situations, and the family is left to kind of figure out what to do next. I think with this specific situation, one, because of who was involved, with it being Kobe Bryant, obviously he had a longer reach in the community just based off of who he was in his career, but then also hearing that there were families that were lost in that situation. So it's kind of like, wow, thinking as far as if this person and all the things that they have done, their life was taken, what exactly does that mean for me? So it does trigger potentially some anxiety, some fear in regard to your own mortality. I know that when I went to Belize, we had an option to get to the island that we were staying on. Was an option. We could take a small plane or we had to take a ferry. And I was like, I am not getting on that plane. So you make some adjustments in your life just based off of fear that no one is untouchable. No one can escape death. And that's a really scary thing to navigate through and see how many adjustments you start to make to your life without even necessarily realizing it. So I think that is definitely something normal in the process of grief. It helps you. You start to begin to evaluate your normal behaviors and try and put yourself in that other person's shoes as far as this could potentially happen to me. So I've experienced meeting with people whose anxiety has been triggered through this situation, whose fear of death have been triggered through this situation, and also people's unresolved grief have been triggered through this situation. I know in seeing this in the news for me personally, it triggered as far as losing friends, losing family suddenly, and knowing kind of what that feeling is like, and for other people knowing that they lost 4 or 5 members of their family at one time, and knowing how intense that is. So I think it definitely triggers that unresolved grief, and watching the media and looking at social media, hearing about what happened in that helicopter crash, and you're thinking, man, triggered thoughts of if you lost your mom, your dad, aunt, grandmother, sibling. It really triggers those things. And maybe at the time when you lost your family member, you were so caught up in planning the funeral and doing the things that you needed to do to get back to business that you never had the opportunity to truly grieve. So when you're seeing these things in the media and you're wondering, why am I so affected by this? Why am I so sad? You could be potentially triggering some grief that you've never dealt with personally. So I don't think that is uncommon. I know a lot of people I've been seeing, and like I said, I've been trying to avoid social media as much as possible, but there's been a lot out there as far as why are people so affected by the loss of someone that they didn't even know? And I think it is deeper than just, oh, he was a celebrity. I think he showed his human side, knowing that there were children on the flight as well. So it's a lot deeper than, oh, you're just mourning over some untouchable celebrity. I think it definitely has a lot of human factors in there that we're all affected by. So I'd say if you are experiencing grief, don't let anyone shame you in that. I think we all are human. We all are supposed to have human compassion, and there's nothing wrong with grieving, even if you did not personally know of that person. Another thing as far as just anger. I know I talked about being anger as a part of the stage of grief, but a lot of times you start to feel some anger with God. Like, why are you letting all of this bad stuff happen? We are so overexposed to trauma and different things in the media that are constantly happening. And it's like, God, what are you doing? Why are you not protecting us from the things that are going on? And I think that one thing I personally had to realize is that anger is okay. Anger is not a bad emotion. It is just an emotion that you experience naturally as a human being. It's what you do with that emotion that matters. So I think that, and I know, like I said, I talk about my own spiritual beliefs. Other people have their own personal beliefs, but God can handle your anger. God can handle your questions. God can handle your fear, your frustrations, your anxiety. So I think that sometimes it's okay to express those things and want to ask God as far as what is his plan, what is his purpose, and really seek whoever your higher power is for understanding as far as how do I deal with this situation? How do I move on forward? What are some lessons that I can learn from this situation? So I say, don't run away from the anger, because that's all a part of the grief process. It's just a matter of how you move through it and how you allow yourself to react. That's the bigger thing. The last thing I wanted to touch on as far as a point is that when you face kind of this sudden loss, you really start to reevaluate your own life and your relationships. So you begin to think about, okay, what is some of the things that I need to be doing in my life that I'm not doing because life is short? What are some ways that I can better use my time that I have here? Some people often say, okay, you know what, life is not promised. I'm going to wild out and do whatever I want to do while I have the time to do so. And many people turn to unhealthy ways of dealing with their grief. So I would say if you're starting to lash out, I guess is a word I would say, as far as reacting, as far as living a reckless life because you feel like, you know, tomorrow isn't promised, I do think that it's important for you to evaluate how that is going to affect you in the long run. Evaluate how that's currently affecting your quality of life. Yes, you're living it, you're doing what you need to do, but are you hurting yourself more than you're helping yourself? So that may be definitely time for you to seek some support in figuring out how can you live your life the best that you can, but in the most healthy way. Reevaluating your life. So I think it is good. I think it's important. I think I went through that process of really saying, okay, life isn't promised. How do I make sure that I'm living a fulfilling life and doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing with the time that I have here? So I think going into those periods of self-reflection, if you journal, if you meditate, if you pray, using this as an opportunity to kind of go inside of yourself and see what is the plan that you have? What is your purpose here on this earth? And knowing that if you're being lax, being lazy, not being motivated, how do you take advantage of the time that you have? And then also the last point I have is people who begin to reevaluate their personal relationships, as far as I haven't talked to this friend in a long time. I don't really have a good relationship with my family. I don't have a good relationship with friends. Maybe you're isolating yourself and you don't really have any connections in your life. So I do think it is important to look at some of those relationships that maybe you can invest in and put some time into repairing and working on building that support system for yourself. So that when you're trying to reevaluate your life, looking at your plans, that you are healthy and you have a healthy support system around you. One thing that I would caution though is not being blind to the reasons why you don't have those people in your life. Some people you have decided to remove from your life for a purpose and a reason. Maybe they were toxic for you. Maybe they didn't have your best interest at heart. Maybe you left a relationship because you knew they weren't healthy for you. Don't just allow people back in your life for the sake of what you're feeling in the moment, or for the sake of saying, okay, you know, I need to repair all of my relationships. I do think that it is important to do it in a healthy way. So as you're navigating through, and I think I heard that they're planning to have the memorial for Kobe and his daughter, I think on the 24th of this month. So I know that we've been hit with a lot of things in social media and on the news about what has been going on thus far, but we're definitely going to get another wave as they go on through to the memorial. So I'd say just prepare yourself for that, equip yourself. A lot of times we need to be okay with turning it off when it gets to be too much and walking away and allowing ourselves to deal with what we know thus far without inundating ourselves and getting so caught up in the trauma and the news and the updates on it. So be okay with unplugging if that's what you need at that time. And then use this period, like I said, as a reflection as far as if you have unresolved grief in your life, if you have things that you know that you've put on the back burner and haven't addressed, if you have relationships that you know that are healthy for you that you would like to kind of reevaluate and try and rekindle, and then allowing yourself to reevaluate where you are. I'm putting on this mascara and it's difficult to look up when I'm doing that. To reevaluate where you are as an individual and what are some ways that you can start making changes in order to be living your purpose. And while you're doing that, pray for those who were lost in this tragic accident. Pray for those families, because I'm telling you, it is difficult to go through a tragedy such as this. It's difficult to lose someone instantly and not have an opportunity to get closure or say your goodbyes or say those last things that you wanted to say. So pray for all of them. I know kind of Kobe and his daughter is the standout because they are well known, but pray for all of those families who were affected, because there's a lot of people who experienced loss that day. So take care of yourself, take care of those around you, and make sure that you are doing what you need to do to keep yourself healthy. I'm a therapist, so I am an advocate for getting support that you need as you navigate through this process and it triggers something personal within you. I am praying for the families of those who were lost that day. I'm going to be in post, I'll add pictures of each person who was lost, just so we can know who all of them are and recognize and honor their memory. So I appreciate you for watching. I'm just about done. I'm gonna go today. It's cold here in Texas, so I have to liven it up somehow. We're not getting much sun. So let me see. Just about finished. Do a little. Oh, that stands out pretty good. Alright guys, this is the final look. Just wanted to leave you with a couple words. Unfortunately, grief is a part of life. It's something that is out of our control, which I know can be scary, but I challenge you to take care of yourself. So if that's getting support that you need, going to counseling to talk through some things, taking yourself off of social media, turning some things off, spending some time in prayer, meditation, journaling, focusing on the things that you need to do for yourself. Also learning to live within your purpose and live with joy and happiness and doing the things that you know is going to be fulfilling for you, and loving one another. I think we just need to be more compassionate and loving to one another, especially in times like this. So I will say I love you. I thank you for watching. Again, I am praying for the families of those who have been lost in this tragic incident, especially as we get into, and I don't know, obviously, the plans that the other families had as far as memorials, but just praying as they get through that difficult process. Again, I thank you for watching, and I will see you guys on the next video. Love you.